Hey guys, welcome back to another video in this channel. Today we're actually going to be doing something really interesting, and I'm going to be like 100% transparent with you guys. We're going to be like tweaking things and seeing if this works. I'm trying this for the first time, but I think it's going to work. I have a high suspicion that it will, and I think it's going to be a really cool exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working with the dragon egg. I uploaded that one to my Facebook and people seem to really like it, so I thought it would be an interesting thing to try to bring that into the real world, because even though the render looks okay or looks nice, I think it would be cool if we can bring it into like an actual live footage plate. So let me show you what we have right here. I just took a photo a couple of minutes ago while holding this like a plastic ball from my daughter, and we're gonna replace that ball with the egg. And I'm going to show you the process that we're going to be following. Now, usually when we do some sort of matching, right, like when we want to match something, matching an image is way easier than matching a live footage, because with the live footage you need to track things. I don't do a lot of that stuff. Most of the stuff that we do here at the studio, it's like full 3D, so we don't do a lot of like compositing. But I think again we can maybe get this thing to work in a nice way. So the first thing I wanted to try was this app called Google Street View. So you all guys know about Street View, right? Which is Google's way to show you the world and walk around stuff. Well, I actually didn't know that you can download Street View to your phone. I have my phone right here. And you can use the little app to take a picture, like a panoramic picture of whatever you want. So I actually took a panoramic picture of the studio, which is this one right here. I've done a studio walkthrough a couple of months ago. Last year, I think we did it with this new like setup that I have right here. You can see my 3D printing stations right there. This is like my hobby room where I have all of my D&D stuff, and this is where I record. It looks really bad. Like the stitching is not perfect. Definitely like this wall looks really nice. Like the computer is a complete mess over here. The paint section is okay. Yeah, so certain parts at their store. He was sleeping right there. So there are certain parts that work. The fan obviously completely destroyed. But the cool thing, or the one thing that we want from this image, it's not like the full like perfect like reflection, because it's going to be a little bit blurry with the dragon egg. It's mostly the colors, right? Like the colors and some of the intensities of the lights that we're going to be using to match our stuff. So let's open Maya real quick, and the first things we need to do is I actually already saved this image, because we're going to be using this as an image plane to match the position of the egg. Like we want to make sure like things match as closely as possible. There's a couple of ways to do this. Some people like using a image plate, like actually importing the image into a plane. We're actually going to be using some Arnold tools. By the way, you can also do this inside of Blender, but today we're going to be using Maya. Now, the one thing that it's unfortunate, of course, about this image right here is that it's not an HDRI. So even though we do have this, like my big bulbs of light that I use, like right here and right here, the image doesn't know that they are like super high in intensity. So the only thing we're going to be able to capture from this image are the reflections, in case we were using like a really reflective surface, and some of the colors and the tones for our HDRI. So let's open the file real quick. There we go. And here in the file, as you can see, my render setup was really easy. We did have an HDRI, which for some reason it's rotated. Not sure why. Let me bring this back to the origin. There we go. And then we have the lights right here, right? Like a couple of lights. So I'm going to delete this lights. I'm going to delete the backplate, and we're only going to be left with the dragon egg right here. We're going to be using this camera. So panels, look through selected, and on this camera is where we're going to place our backplate. So I'm going to import an image plane, and I believe I had this on my assets folder, dragon egg. There we go, backplate. I'm going to hit open. As you can see, the image is right there. So it should be fairly easy to position the egg in such a way, like by moving the camera around, to position the egg in such a way that it matches as close as possible to the circumference of the sphere. Ideally, we would, instead of having that sphere, we would have like a green, like big blob of like a green shaped egg, right? So that we can very easily cut it in and cut it out. But something like this should work just fine, I think. I'm gonna make it slightly bigger. And it is important to have an object, I would say. I actually went out there to look for the object, and I found the ball, because it holds, like, the weight that I'm gonna be holding, the way your body reacts to the object makes it a lot more believable than if I just, like, did this in front of the camera, right? It might look okay, but it might look like I'm not really holding anything. And even though the ball is really light compared to the egg, you still get the sort of, like, holding sensation that we're going for. So this is what we're gonna get, right? Now, if I were to jump into render right now, where we're gonna render, of course, it's just the egg, or it should be just the egg, depending on whether or not we have the image plate on or not. And we don't. So as you can see, we are seeing my my back plate right there. How can we get rid of that? Well, first of all, we can select this thing right here. And now that we know that the egg is in the proper position, I can actually delete the image plane. So if we go to the image plane right here, I can also go to the render stats, like over here on Arnold. Should be an option. There we go, render stats. And we can just, like, get rid of it. Or we can just delete it. Any of those should work. In this case, what should we do? Well, first of all, let me make sure that my sky dome light is not visible. There we go. So we're going to turn it off on the camera. And now if we render again, you're going to see that it looks like this thing is right there. Unfortunately, the stuff is not, like, giving us the proper elements. I think the X is a little bit too big. I'm going to make it slightly smaller. There we go. And yeah, I'm just going to select the image plane and just delete it, because we already know that it's supposed to be where it's supposed to be, right? So when we render this, the egg is right there, but of course it doesn't look like it's right there. And one of the things that we need to do is I'm actually going to go here to the display options, and I'm going to use a background image. And on the images, I'm going to select, again, the backplate. This is on Arnold. That way, as you can see right here, we are seeing how this thing is going to be, like merged with the whole image. We are not going to apply the color management right here, so we're going to turn this off so that we're not applying the color management to the image itself. And now, as you can see, it looks a little bit closer to what we're expecting. Of course, the egg doesn't look like it belongs to the scene because the light is not working the way it should. But let's save a copy of this one right here, of this option, which, by the way, the image is going to be there no matter which image we have. You can see that here it's only the egg, but you'll see. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the image plane, or to the egg right here, and we're just going to change the image. So instead of using the HDR that we were using, I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to use my Pano, this one right here, which is my my studio. One thing that I definitely need to do, or that we definitely should do, is rotate this thing around so that it is facing in the exact way as the image, right? So that it matches in the best possible way. It's loading. Let's give it a second. Is it really big or what? Oh, it's 8 megabytes. I'm not sure why it's taking so long to load the texture. Let me just pause real quick. There we go. So the image is now here. It was taking a little bit longer because I forgot to stop the rendering. And as you can see, again, if we look through the camera, panels, look through selected, we are indeed seeing, like, roughly the proper location of the egg. The problem is, though, even though we are getting the proper colors here, it's not really looking like it's part of the scene. And again, this is because even though we are capturing the proper image on the element, on the background, the image doesn't have the light intensity that I have here on the studio, right? It doesn't know about the intensity. But I just want to do something real quick here. I'm going to go to the material. I'm just going to call this M Dragon, so that I don't forget that's the one. Let's assign a new material, Arnold, AI Standard Surface. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this metal. So it's going to be really reflective. And now I want you guys to look at this. See that? So it looks that it belongs a little bit more in the scene because we're actually seeing the reflection of the room in here. Of course, we're not seeing my reflection, which would be something that we would need to fix probably in post-production or something. But it might look like it actually belongs here thanks to the colors that we're using. Again, the materials the material that we have right now, the dragon egg material, is not as shiny, so we're not really appreciating that sort of stuff. But the colors you're gonna see. Let's save the image right here. You can see the difference. This is with the other lights, and this is with the light on my studio right now. We can definitely increase the intensity of the exposure of the HDR to bring more light into the scene. But rather than doing that, I think it might be a better idea if we just duplicate what we have right here on my light setup. So I know, again, I'm gonna go into perspective view. That's my camera right there. Never scale the camera. So if we want to see the camera a little bit bigger, I'm just gonna go to object display and locator scale. and make it bigger. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna lock everything so that we don't move it. You definitely don't want to move your camera. And again, I know that there's gonna be a light right around here and another light right around here. Very soft lights. They're like spotlights. So I'm gonna go Arnold lights. Let's do an area light. It's gonna be a big area light. Careful here. I think I'm still rendering. Let's stop. There we go. So this one's gonna be roughly about here. And it's going to be pointing towards our egg. So let's start with the first one. Both of them should be the same intensity. Like I bought them at the same store. I don't remember the exact intensity that we had. So we're going to have to kind of like play around. So let's start with like a 12. There we go. And let's give this a shot. So now when we render, I'm not seeing that much. Now, we might also need to consider the fact that this should be real world scale. So that means that we're probably going to have to go a little bit higher. Really? 15 is not enough? There we go. So that's a little bit better, as you can see. We're getting a nicer, like the shadow right there. But again, this light right here, I have it as a diffuse light, and it's not actually like pointing my egg or my face perfectly fine. So we're going to go somewhere like here. You can see how it's illuminating like this side of my head over here. My God, I'm getting bald. So something like this. It should be illuminating a little bit on that specific side. Let's stop this right here. And the main light that's going to be illuminating this guy is going to be another light that I have on this side. It should be the same intensity, but it should be going a little bit more direct towards it. So something like this, right? Because it should match these reflections that I have here on my face. So it should be probably a little bit higher up. And this one's a little bit closer, like I can almost touch it when I extend my hand like this. So I would expect this to be a little bit closer to the egg as well. So something like this, even closer, right? Like, because if the egg is supposed to be like closer to the world itself, we should be able to see it a little bit closer. So that looks not bad, I would say. I think we're in a good position here. And again, the way I like to compare it is I like to check the intensity of my hands right here compared to the intensity of the light on the egg itself, and then the intensity on the rest of my body, right? Like on the shirt and stuff like that. So we don't want to overdo it, and we can of course like tweak things around inside of Photoshop to make it match a little bit better. But the thing is, we want to get as close as possible to the actual like color of the element, right? So something like this, I think we're really close. Now there's another light that I have down there close to my little like photographs and stuff, which is like it's a reflector that wants to make sure that the background is not as dark. And this one's gonna be way more potent, but it's just gonna be hitting it like from the side. So again, we're trying to replicate the light setup that I have here on my studio virtually. Let's bring this to like 20, which is quite a bit. You can see the rim light right there. It's a little bit too much. I do like the way it's looking, but it's a little bit too much. Let's go back to 18. And it's just a very basic, very soft effect. As you can see, that already looks quite nice. Not bad, right? Not freaking bad. Gonna move it a little bit like further back so that the intensity of the rim light is not as much, but I do want to see that sort of stuff. And those little like touches, that's what's gonna make the whole image look as nice as possible. So there we go. We have the basic of the render done. We can keep on tweaking these. We can keep on moving it, but I think we're in a good position here with the match. So the next step, of course, is to go into Photoshop and make sure that we do a little bit of rotoscoping. So let's do that. I'm gonna say File. Well, let's get rid of the image. So just here, I'm gonna say File, save the image, and I'm gonna save it on the desktop for now. Let's call this Dragon Egg Render. There we go. So we go back to Photoshop, which is where we have the image. There we go. And we're gonna open the image. So desktop, Dragon Egg Render. One thing I forgot to do, or I should have done, was get the alpha channel, because that's going to be a lot easier, and right now we don't have it. So I'm going to go back here to the render settings inside of Maya. going to say File, Save Image, and let's save it as a targa instead. So dragon egg.tga, because the targa file will have a an alpha channel, as you can see right here. There we go. So we can very easily control and click on the alpha channel, and if we go to the layers, we can mask that out, and as you can see, the egg is now a separate piece. So we bring it there. We're not going to move it. We know that's exactly where it needs to be. And now we need to do the rotoscoping. So how are we going to do this? We're going to have two layers. So we're going to have one layer right here of my fingers, the ones that are holding the egg, the ones that I'm going to be seeing the most, and then the egg on top. You want to rotoscope, in this case, the fingers that are on top of the egg. Like this one right here, it's on the side, so I think we can leave that one as is. But like all of this guys right here, we definitely need to rotoscope. And there's a lot of ways to rotoscope. I'm not a rotoscope artist. There's some people out there that are amazingly skilled at rotoscoping things. I'm not one of those. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, let me turn this off. There we go. So what I want to see is only the fingers. There we go. Let's erase everything else. I'm masking. As you can see, I'm not actually deleting the pixels. I'm just masking them out. That's an important thing to do. And then we're going to use our pen tool right here. So the way rotoscoping works is you are supposed to go all around the things that are going to be like rotoscoped and try to match the silhouette as close as possible. Now I know, and that's one little mistake, we might be able to fix it, but I know that the ball is red, and therefore we are getting a little bit of, well, not a little bit, quite a bit of red like hue into my fingers. I know some of you, if you guys are a little bit more experienced with rotoscoping, you're definitely gonna be like, what is he doing? That's horrible. I know. I don't do this a lot. And that's pretty much it. Okay, now we just go around and we do that. And we can right click, make selection. I'm gonna add a little bit of feather. Let's do like 3 pixels. Feather is like a little bit of a blur. And then what I can do is Control-Shift-I to invert the selection and just fill everything with black, as you can see right there. So now when we turn this on again, as you can see, we're gonna have me holding the egg. So I think the feather was a little bit too much though. So let's go back here. Let's right click, make selection. Just like a 1 pixel feather. There we go. Again, Control-Shift-I, and then just fill everything with black. There we go. And we can turn this back on again. There we go. So now it actually looks like I'm holding the egg, but we need to, again, do a little bit of a work here to make sure it looks more integrated with the image. So there's, I would say, 2 things that we can do here. We can integrate this on the egg itself, like we can do some changes to the egg itself, and we can do some changes to the overall composition. So on the egg itself, I think a good idea would be to desaturate this a little bit, because usually in 3D we saturate things a little bit more than they are. So probably yeah, something like that should be good. If you want to keep this procedurally so that you can change it, you can use this thing called an adjustment layer. So down here we're going to add a hue and saturation and go right there. By the way, we haven't had our commercial. I forgot about that. But if you want to learn about Photoshop, if you want to learn about Blender, Maya, rendering, and a lot of stuff, we do have the Skillshare promotion. Hey guys, Abraham here. I just wanted to remind you guys that we upload all of our courses to Skillshare. Skillshare is this amazing site where you can access a ton of different content to learn, improve, and grow as an artist. We have all of our courses available to watch and learn from right now in Skillshare. You can check the description down here, and Skillshare is offering 1 free month trial to their premium membership. With this membership, you're going to be able to access all of our courses and watch and learn all of the amazing things that we cover with all of the softwares. So, what are you waiting for? Check check Skillshare down here below. There we go. So yeah, now the things that we need to do is we need to add a little bit of like shadow to the egg, I would say. So I'm gonna add a new layer here. This is gonna be, again, very loosey. I'm just gonna go for like a dark color here, like a dark soft brush, like here. And again, thanks to the rotoscoping that we did, which is again this layer on top, we can add the shadows, and they're only going to be affecting whatever is underneath it, right? Let's erase some of this. So I'm going to go and erase this so it looks a little bit more integrated like that. And then we can change this to something like an overlay and decrease the opacity a little bit so that we're getting this sort of effect. Now, the egg, as you can see right here, is I'm seeing a little bit of the sphere right there. I think that's is that like the ball? Yeah, that's part of the ball. See that right there? And that means that the rotor might be wrong. That's not the rotor, because the rotor is down there. So that means that the orientation of the egg was not perfect. So I'm gonna grab all of these 3 layers and just move it a little bit more like this. Even if I need to just like rotate slightly. Of course, we need to cover the sphere, right? There we go. And here's where we can start doing, again, a little bit of like painting or layer painting. For instance, that line right there looks very, very weird. So I'm just gonna grab that. I'm actually gonna create a new layer here. And either like paint a little bit of the egg or something, just, you know, just make it seem like we're actually holding it, because that there right there looks a little bit clipping. Probably gonna have to do that on the very top here. So just add a little bit more. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's gonna be fairly easy to do it on a still image, because you only need to make sure that this still image looks as good as possible. But if you're doing this on a video, then you pretty much have to go frame by frame. You need to use a couple of different tools. I don't love this red hue, again, that I have right here on the hands. I'm thinking about adding an adjustment layer again. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna add an adjustment layer. It's gonna be a hue saturation adjustment layer. It's only gonna be affecting this layer right here. And what we can do is we can change the hue. As you can see, I can go to like a green hue. And then on this mask, I'm gonna fill it with black, and then we can softly like change the hue here. I know it looks horrible right now, don't worry. There we go. And then we can, of course, play around with the opacity, and even with like a blend mode, like lighter color right there. We're gonna have to go to this one right here. Oh. Delete some of that stuff, just so that the hand looks, you know, a little bit better. Another option would be to go like to get a green ball, of course, or why not? I think that this one might be even better. If we have the red hue, why not change the color of the egg into a red egg? Right. There we go. So now that matches a little bit more with the effect that we had, and we're still like maintaining the all of the elements. I don't love it though. I love my this little green egg right here. I think it looks quite nice. It's just that maybe, I mean, we can justify it with my hands being very red or something. We definitely need the shadow here, maybe a little bit darker there. There we go. Now, final touch. Final touch. I'm gonna grab all of the images here, group them. Control G. Control G. Control G. There we go. Oh, it did not work. Oh my God. What am I missing here? Let's grab it. Oh, I think I need to unblock this. There we go. So grab it. Control G. There we go. And I'm gonna press Control, Alt, Shift, and E. What that does, it merges everything and copies it into a new layer, which is this one right here. And I'm gonna use a filter. So I'm gonna add an adjustment layer or an effects layer. no, sorry, adjustment layer, and it's gonna be a color lookup. Color lookups are these very amazing things that you can use to change the look of the whole thing. As you can see right here, makes it look way more like cinematic and stuff. And not only that, but due to the fact that it like modifies everything, it will make things like blend a little bit better between each other. Kind of like, again, it adds a filter to the whole thing. I do believe I have a couple of loots over here. Give me just 1 second. You can look this, by the way, online. There's a lot of like free ones. Where are they? There we go. Let's use Domingo. No, that's a little bit too much. Let's load another one. Lucky. A little bit washed out, I would say. You can play around with the loots and find one that looks good. Trent. That's good. I think I like that one, but it's a little bit too dark. I mean, and one thing you can do after you have this, you can of course like reduce the intensity. For instance, we can go for like a 20, and then let's add, let's say, like levels, right? And or not levels, curves. So let's have a curves. And with the curves, because I really like the look of this loot, but I think we can crunch the whites a little bit more. So I'm gonna push the whites up a little bit. There we go. Another thing that we need to take into consideration is the focus of the camera, right? Because my face is in focus, or as very, very focused, and my hands are a little bit blurry. You can see on my nails, on my watch, things are a little bit blurry. And then the egg is really, really focused. So it might not be a bad idea. I'm gonna go back here. Let's turn this thing off for just a second. I'm gonna go back to the egg, and we're gonna add a filter, blur, Gaussian blur, very little, just like 1 pixel probably. Maybe 2. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, or like 3 pixels. Is that too much? Oh wait, yeah, that's too much. Let's go back. So I'm gonna delete this image for just a second. Now we're back to the original stuff. Let's go here again. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. 1 pixel should be more than enough. There we go. Even like, I think 1 pixel is a little bit too much. Like 0.5 pixels might be good. So blur, Gaussian blur, 0.5 pixels. There we go. Just so it looks a little bit more in line with the rest of the elements. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully you like this final result. I think it looks quite nice. Can someone tell that this is fake? Probably, right? Like it's not like super obvious. But one like quality bar I like to do with my work sometimes is I show it to my older family members, like aunts and uncles that are not so familiar with 3D stuff, because a lot of the times that's gonna be your audience, people that don't know about 3D. So if they see this and they're like, "Wow, you have a dragon egg," and they're like, "Oh no, it's not actually. It's actually a mock-up, right? It's on top." Then they're gonna be surprised, and that's something that could benefit you. I think I want to add a little bit more shadow. I'm gonna add a little bit more shadow here. Same thing here on the back. Like I know we have the other light that's filling some of this stuff, but I do feel like they were missing just a tad bit of shadow there. And then we can of course like reduce the opacity again. As long as it looks good, we're gonna be able to create this very nice composition. So that's it, guys. Hopefully all of this information is useful to you. We saw a lot of things. We saw how to match how to create a 360 degree with a Street View, and then we saw how to recreate the lighting setup inside of Maya so that it matches as closely as possible and we get the best possible colors on our stuff. And finally, we did a little bit of compositing to make sure this looks as nice as it could, right? So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.